My toddler's oxygen dropped to 86% in her sleep, and we were told to wait it out. We didn't wait, and it may have saved her life. Trust your gut, mamas. Just wanted to share what we went through this week in case it helps another parent trust their gut. My 20-month-old daughter had been sick with what looked like a typical viral infection: fever, runny nose, fatigue. Her doctor suspected a virus and said to monitor her. But something felt off. She was sweating heavily in her sleep, her heart rate was spiking up to 180 plus while resting, and she just seemed off. Lethargic, not herself. We were using a pulse ox monitor at home, AITA, and noticed her oxygen kept dipping to 90, sometimes as low as 86, then rebounding to 91 90 seconds. It would happen mostly during sleep. I kept putting all of this into ChatGPT, and it kept coming back with "this is an emergency," exactly what my brain was telling me despite her doctor saying otherwise. And, as weird as this is, our tiny dog, who loves our toddler but doesn't like her, if that makes any sense, was pawing at her crib, shaking as she laid there motionless. That's what pushed us to urgent care. At urgent care, they heard a strange clicking in her breathing and did a neck X-ray. They thought it might be swelling near the epiglottis and transferred us to the ER immediately. In the ER, they initially treated it as croup, but her oxygen kept dipping in her sleep, even without obvious distress. Eventually, she was admitted, and her O2 hovered around 88 to 92%, even on oxygen. Yenti ruled out epiglottitis, thank God, but it was clear her airway was inflamed. She tested positive for human metapneumovirus, HMPV, a nasty virus similar to RSV. Doctors ultimately diagnosed her with croup caused by HMPV, and her airway was so inflamed it was compromising her oxygen during sleep. It took nearly a full day in the hospital, steroids, monitoring, and finally oxygen support before she stabilized above 95% on her own. We're home now. She's resting and recovering, and she's going to be okay. If I had listened to the "just wait it out" advice, I don't know where we'd be. The O2 dips weren't obvious. She wasn't gasping or turning blue. Just sleeping and quietly not getting enough air. So if your gut is telling you something's wrong, especially if your kid seems off while sick, listen to it. You're not overreacting. I had to advocate hard for care at multiple points, and I'm glad I did. Edit, forgot to mention, her heart rate was skyrocketing in the 160s to 180s when she was in deep sleep as her O2 levels were in flux. Update. A couple months ago, I posted about my daughter's oxygen dipping into the 80s while she was asleep. She had HMPV at the time, and the ER treated it as croup, but nothing ever fully explained why her oxygen kept crashing when she looked totally calm. We got sent home with the usual monitor and wait, but I never fully let it go. Last week, she had a scheduled tonsillectomy and adenodectomy for ongoing sleep-disordered breathing, congestion, and constant snoring. During surgery, her Yenti scoped her airway and found 3 major things. Severe laryngomalacia. The tissue above her vocal cords was collapsing into her airway. Moderate tracheomalacia. Her windpipe is weak and soft, making it prone to collapse. Tonsils 4+. Adenoids blocking 90% of her airway. The surgeon told us her tonsils were some of the biggest they'd ever seen in a child her size. They also performed a supraglottoplasty during the surgery, a procedure that trims the floppy tissue above the vocal cords to open the airway and prevent it from collapsing during breathing. It's the standard fix for laryngomalacia, done entirely through the mouth with no external cuts. Small procedure, huge difference. All of this was congenital. She was born with it. And suddenly, everything makes sense. She's always been a noisy breather, even as a newborn. We were told it was normal. She didn't turn blue or gasp, so no one thought much of it. But one night her owlet gave us a red alert. Oxygen was below 80. She was completely still. We woke her up, she cried, and the numbers came back up. Her pediatrician dismissed it as a fluke. Now I really don't think it was. We used the SNU. We followed every safe sleep recommendation. We were textbook. And I still can't stop thinking how close we might have come to something much worse, without ever knowing. Laryngomalacia and tracheomalacia aren't direct causes of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. but they are significant airway vulnerabilities. Add in massive tonsils, a virus, and deep sleep, the risk was real. We were discharged after just one night, and she's already breathing quieter and has more energy. But I can't stop thinking about the 22 months that passed before we knew. All that time she was working harder to breathe than we realized. And if something had happened in her sleep, we would have just never known why. We feel incredibly lucky we caught this before something tragic happened. That one scope during surgery gave us the answers we didn't even know to keep looking for. So, if your baby is a noisy breather, if something doesn't sit right, if your gut says keep pushing, do it. Ask for the ENT referral. Ask for the scope. You don't need dramatic symptoms to justify concern. TLDR, after months of breathing issues and a scary ER visit, surgery revealed our toddler's tonsils were 4+ huge, and her windpipe was collapsing from laryngomalacia and tracheomalacia. She had a supraglottoplasty and is already breathing better. We got to go home after one night and feel so lucky we caught it before something worse happened.